Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're back out in the canvas tent, 10 by 12 canvas wall tent. And recently I did a review, well, not really a review, it was kind of a, I guess you could call it a review of our Winnerwell Nomad Large Nomad stove in this canvas tent, this size. And I mentioned in that video that I would soon be doing an update on using the Wilderness 4, and I'll put a link in the description below this video for where we got this Wilderness 4 wall tent stove. But I just wanted to share a little bit of information with you after having had a chance to use it in this tent in some pretty chilly temperatures, and we're going to be in here for the next probably 3 or 4 nights. And it's going to get down like in the 20s or so. And we did use it, you know, when it was already in those kind of temperatures. We haven't been in here. We weren't in here last night. We took the chimney out because we had like 2 days of solid rain. And we weren't going to be in here in the day to keep the stove hot. So we just took the chimney out and didn't use it. But last night we weren't in here. We're going to come back tonight, so we'll be reinstalling the chimney to use it. Excuse me, but as I said, we have used it several nights in the really cold temperatures, and I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of the difference between using this Wilderness 4 tent stove as compared to the Winnerwell Large Nomad cook stove. Totally different experience. I already did the video on the Winnerwell, so you know about that if you've watched that video. This is definitely the stove for heating this size tent and larger tents. I think it's rated, if I'm not mistaken, this one is rated for, it can even heat a 16 by 24 if I'm not mistaken. But they do have one size larger, I think. I think it's just one size larger than this. But again, I'll put the link so you can look at it. This stove is very easy to operate. It's very easy to start a fire in, but once you start the fire, it's very windy out if you hear the tent flapping. Once you start a fire in here, it takes quite a while to heat the stove, to heat up the tent, just because you have so much more space in there. Now with the Winnerwell, it's right now hot. I mean, you feel the heat in here. Within 5 minutes, we were toasty. With this one, even with a really good roaring fire in there, because it's so much bigger, it probably took a good 15-20 minutes for it to really heat the tent up so that it was nice and toasty. Of course, it's a tent, you know, there's vents at the top, the windows don't seal well, the door doesn't seal well, but you know, it's a confined space, and you can heat it. This stove is actually designed more for heating. It's not one that you're really going to cook on. You might be able to if you really got it super hot, but because the fire is so much further than from the surface, and you have such a large box there for the fire to be contained in, as compared to the Winnerwell, you're not going to get the surface of this as hot as that Winnerwell, especially not as fast. So if you're looking for something that's going to, you know, let you sleep more hours and keep the tent warm, then this is what you need. If you're looking for something that, say, you could just get up in the morning, start a fire, and cook your breakfast, the Winnerwell probably would be the way to go. This chimney stovepipe fits the hole of the stove a little bit better, so that we don't have as much issue with rain dripping in, although it does drip in. We also found that when the rain dripped in with the Winnerwell, the way the stove and the pipe are configured, the rain was more likely to hit the Winnerwell stove and just evaporate, as compared to this one. The rain tends to drip behind, you know, because it's coming down the slope of the roof of the tent. It tends to drip down on the back side of the chimney or the stovepipe, and it wants to hit the ground, the floor behind the stove. And so if you're in here and it's a real downpour, you might need to put something behind the stove to help mop up some of the water. But if you've got a really good hot fire in here, that's going to help a lot. That's why we took the stovepipe out over the last few days, because it's been super rainy here. Let me show you a few close-ups of this stove. Again, we do have a video on this. This mainly is just a comparison between using the Winnerwell, using the Wilderness 4 wood stove. The Wilderness 4 is more designed for heating, does a fantastic job. We were able to sleep probably 3 or 4 hours, before we noticed it cooling off in here a little bit. You can get a really nice, good hot bed of coals in here. It's not going to make the stovepipe glow like it does on the Winnerwell. It's not going to cause the stove itself to glow like on the Winnerwell. This is just a better stove for heating, like if you just want an overnight heat so that you can have more hours of rest, as opposed to the Winnerwell, which I believe is more designed for a morning heat, cook your breakfast, etc. You can warm stuff on this, but again, cooking, I'm not sure that you're really going to get the surface hot enough to like cook a pot of beans or rice or whatever, or even if you eat them, eggs, frying eggs or something like that. We don't eat eggs, but at any rate, just not sure that you're going to get this surface adequately heated to sustain a hot cooking surface. So at any rate, for heating in this stove, it's fantastic. It's a more even heat. You can control it fairly easily with the vent and the damper and stuff. Just a totally different tool from the Winnerwell. But both are fantastic stoves, and I'm glad that we have both. I believe there's probably a happy medium, and a friend of ours, Jim Buller, has one. I think it's named the Three Dogs Stove, Three Dogs Tent Company. I don't remember. I'll see if I can find out from him and put it in the link below. That's one that maybe gives you a little bit more burn time, but also gives you the heat for the surface of the stove. But for our purposes, we just mainly wanted this for heat. It's going to work fine. We do appreciate the Winnerwell for like when we go camping and we just want something that we can cook on, that we don't have to have propane or whatever. Very nice stove. We really appreciate both of them, just different tools for different purposes. So let me show you just a little bit of the up-close features, just in case you haven't watched the review that we did on this particular stove. One thing that I appreciate about the Wilderness stove as opposed to the Winnerwell is the legs. Now you can get extension legs for the Winnerwell, and we might do that at some point. We're kind of maxed out on our budget with the Winnerwell, buying gadgets for it. But this one just comes with the long legs like that. It stays adequately cool underneath, that you can stack firewood, and I think it helps dry it out. But it's also convenient to just grab a stick and throw in the stove at night. It's with the Wilderness, you don't have to empty the ashes nearly as often as the Winnerwell. And it actually is a good thing in any wood stove to have a layer of ashes on the bottom to kind of help protect from the heat with the ashes. But if you remember the Winnerwell, this is just a ginormous wood box as compared to the Winnerwell. Also, this has a gasket on the door, so you're going to be able to control the burn much better, and so you don't have that glowing red hot fire that you have to worry about warping your stove, which we did warp the Winnerwell just a little bit. But again, we don't have the chimney installed right now. We're going to put it back in later today, but you can see that it fits fairly well. You don't get a lot of water in, but you do get a little bit of drippage. And the fan on the Winnerwell, you really don't need that because it just throws off so much heat so fast. But with this stove, it's quite handy, and it doesn't spin real fast, so it's just a gentle circulation of the air. So that's it. I think these do come with a, you can get a water tank to put on the side. That's what those brackets are for on the side. but we didn't get that. We felt like we could heat water in a pot on the top. So that's it. The Wilderness 4 in a 12 by 10 canvas tent works very well. Y'all take care. We'll see you on the next video.